Hey, what up, y'all? It's Jake here again, and I thought I'd take you along for a ride with me on this recipe I'm working on. I'm going to fill you in on what I've marinated this with so far and what it is, and then I'll give you a review about it when I'm done. But I've never made this recipe before. It's the first time. I've conceived it in my mind. I don't know what the end product's going to look like, but I have an idea of where I want to go. It's what I'm calling a Japanese Hellfire goat curry. That's about a pound of goat. And in this goat, I've marinated it with this awesome stuff. I got it from Costco. It's a Sriracha powder. It's great. It's sweet, it's salty, it's a bit spicy, not too much, but it'll give a good base for the meat as it marinates. I put some white pepper. Yes, it's ground, pre-ground. Get off me about it. It's good. I like it. I'll continue to use it because it's fast. If you ever buy ground pre-ground white pepper powder and you taste it and it tastes like sawdust, then I wouldn't use it. But if it tastes like white pepper and it works like white pepper, use it. I use it. No time to be shishi. And then this stuff. It's mushroom powder. This is a Vietnamese product. It says it's no MSG. Do I believe it? Sure. Do I care? No. I'm going to use it anyways because it's delicious. And I use it in place of in Asian cooking, in place of what a lot of chefs would use chicken powder for. This is the final edition. This is Japanese Worcestershire sauce. I got this at a Japanese grocery store near us. If you don't have it, regular Worcestershire sauce will work just fine. I'm using this because it's going to be a Japanese curry. I think I also threw a little bit of, oil and a little bit of sesame oil as well, just to give it some fragrance. That's what we're dealing with. That's the end product. This is going to go in the fridge for 24 hours. And I will see you tomorrow when I cook it up. All right. Peace, y'all. All right, guys. So it's actually been 48 hours since I first started to marinate this. This is the goat meat that I marinated in the Sriracha, the mushroom powder, and the white pepper. And as you can see, it's good to go. So we're going to get the aromatics started for the curry. We're going to do a Japanese curry with this one. I think I'd call this the Hellfire curry. So there's going to be a bunch of, it's pretty much going to be the spiciest curry I've ever made. I'm going to be putting a lot of chili peppers in there. Probably going to finish it with some sauce, hot sauce or what have you. So we'll see how it goes. Probably stick in some chili flakes or what have you. We'll check it out. Assess as we go along, and really at the end of the day try to arrive at a product that's not only spicy but super delicious. Alright, so just processing some onions right now. I'm not going to be doing very much in the way of aromatics. It's really just going to be onion, garlic, and ginger. I'm going to develop a lot of flavor with the roux and the curry powder that I will be using. I will also be adding a curry cube. You can find those curry cubes at pretty much any grocery now, but a Japanese curry cube just to finish off the stew. But we are going to set a good base using the curry powder that I have. I'll show you guys what it looks like when we get to cooking it. Alright, so we're just getting rid of the onion. Gonna get the garlic done. And I'm really tempted to just not even chop these, really. We're gonna put six cloves of garlic in there. And I'm just gonna smash them. Get the allium popping. within these garlics. These are probably going to break down in the sauce because it'll take a couple hours, maybe 2.5 hours. The meat will take 2.5 hours to cook, so that will cook alongside with it, and it will break down in that time. Just process some ginger. Now this ginger I inadvertently left on the counter, so it's starting to dry out. So I'm just going to get rid of all the outside, and I'm just going to throw that inside the curry. The rest will go in the compost. But I'm not being too picky here. Smash it to get the flavor going, and then we're ready to cook. Always tidy up your workspace, guys. Alright guys, I got so caught up and excited in getting started in cooking this that I forgot to prep the spicy parts of the dish. So here I'm using just a red, long red chili pepper, and as well a Thai chili pepper. Now there are red ones, Thai chili peppers. Those are generally a bit sweeter. They are the same pepper. This is a bit less ripe, okay, which means that it will be a bit less sweet, more on the bitter side, a lot more spicier. So you know, I'm hoping that these two peppers work together in tandem and work well. The scotch bonnet, I'm going to be putting in whole. I am not going to be cutting this up. Okay, and the reason for that is because I want the flavor from the scotch bonnet pepper, but I don't necessarily want the heat. This is really spicy. If you like it spicy, like super spicy, you can cut it in half, throw it in, you can chop it up, do what you like. For me, there is a limit to what I can handle, and that limit is often here. So I'm gonna plan on getting the spice out of these two and the flavor out of this. So let's get this chopped up real quickly. I am not going to be picky about how these are cut, okay, because these are going in more towards the beginning of the cooking process. So they are going to be broken down, but their heat is going to remain. If you noticed here, I'm using a plastic chopping board to cut these up, and that's mainly because I want to avoid any of those spicy oils from being on my wooden board, because I feed my family from this board. We're chopping vegetables on this board, and I don't want them to inadvertently get attacked with spice, you know, because there's some leftover pepper oil on the board. Now for the mushroom, I'm only going to use one. I think there's a misconception out there in that people think you need to put a lot of something in it in order to get some flavor, but you don't. You just need a little bit. In this case, I'm only using one, you know, fairly large mushroom, and I'm just going to chop it real simply. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to chop slices. Oops. I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to make medium to large dice of mushroom. And that's it. Those will break down. As they saute, as they cook, they will shrink. Some of the bigger pieces will be visible, some won't, and that's okay. All right, so now our aromatics are done. We're ready to cook, and I'll see when the burner's going. All right, guys, so we're good to go. I'm gonna start getting this on the fire and see what we end up with. I am using a carbon steel pan. Okay, this is actually one of my favorite pans out there. I love this guy. It's okay at retaining heat. It's not as good as a cast iron, but it does a very good job. So I tend to cook a lot of stuff in this pan. And as oil, we're going to be using some chicken fat. This is not a pan that needs to be ripping hot before you put oil in, okay? I'm going to get that in there, a good amount, because we're building a roux. And I'm also going to throw some bacon fat in there because I like the smoky flavor that bacon offers. Just a couple spoons full. so as this warms up, first thing we're going to do is brown up the meat. Now what we really want to do is when we're browning the meat, we want to make sure it's not too high, all right? We want to pull it down a little bit. And the reason for that is because this marinade has got some stuff in there that'll probably burn, namely the sriracha powder. So we want to make sure we cook this as gently as possible. We also don't have a ton of meat that we're dealing with, so we don't need it to be ripping hot. We just need to get some flavor, some caramelization on this protein so that it lends good flavor into the overall dish. All right. That's good. As you can see, there's a good amount of fat in there. Okay, that's what I want. A lot of fat in the pan when it's frying up something like meat, which has a lot of moisture, usually results in a lot of spattering. So it's important that we control the heat as we cook. Okay, if this were ripping hot, super hot, this will burn. All right, and you probably end up with a lot more charred flavor than you want inside of this chili. Although some charred flavor will work. Too much obviously will become too bitter and will ruin the dish. What we always want to do, guys, when we're cooking is we want to try to focus on, graceful cooking. We don't want to be out of our comfort zone. We don't want to be trying to keep up with what's happening in the pan. We want to be in control of it. We want to be elegant. We want to be graceful in how we cook. And that often starts with cooking with the heat that's responsible, that you can handle. At the end of the day, we're going to end up in the same place anyway. So, unless you have a huge service to get through, if you're at home, be responsible, be clean, be tidy, and cook on the heat that ultimately works for us. All right, so when you're browning up meat in a pan, you want to stick it in the pan, not overcrowd it because that will promote boiling, but you want to let it go and do its thing. All right. What is normal for most people is to try to flip things and try to ensure that things are even in cooking by trying to prematurely move it. That's a wrong idea here, because if you move it now before it's fully browned, it will shred off pieces of meat and protein, and it will stick on the bottom of the pan and it will burn. When you're browning protein, it will let you know when it's ready to be moved, because it will automatically it will release itself from the pan. So let's see if there's any examples of this. See, as I'm trying to pull this, I'm using a very gentle touch, but I still can't get it up. I can't get these pieces off the pan, which means that they're not fully browned yet. So we're going to let it go. Continue to let it go. Continue to let it brown. At this rate, I might be more inclined to increase the heat a little bit, just a bit, and at the same time, maybe get a splatter guard to avoid any messes from occurring. Alright guys, so as you can see, some of these pieces are good. They're moving by themselves. I didn't have to coax them off the bottom of the pan. And that's how I know they're ready. Okay. You also know because you won't get any particles left on the bottom of the pan. The sear is okay because you ultimately want to create a fond on the bottom of the pan, which is residue from the browning of the protein. Now that we've cooked it over, I'm really going to just turn off the heat for a bit. Let the pan cool down. Give me an opportunity to tidy up. You should always be cleaning as you cook, guys. There's a lot of people out there that cook and clean after, but if you can keep it clean while you're cooking, then all the better. Alright, and now I'm pretty happy with how these are. I don't need a ton of browning on it because they are going to get stewed, so I'm going to pull them off the heat right now. There's one side on these that's pretty well browned. I'm good with that. You see? See what happens when you prematurely try to move it? I'm okay with a little bit of it because it does add flavor to the pan or to the sauce. But you don't want a whole lot of that sort of stuff on the bottom of your pan because it will muck up your sauce and it will burn. Alright, so the heat's off. You can see all the fond here, the grease. That's great. That's what we want because that is going to allow us to get to the next step, which is the aromatics and the flavoring agents that is going to go into the stew. So let's throw it back on, put it on low, and we're going to start with mushrooms. The reason why we're starting with the mushrooms is because they actually soak up a lot of grease. They will soak up the grease, and then once they're saturated and sauteed, they will leach that grease back out. So since they are pretty spongy, I'd like to get the flavor of the pan into them, and that adds some extra umami into the mushrooms. As you can see, there's a little bit of moisture in the mushrooms, so that's releasing into the pan. All right, and that's helping to deglaze the pan a little bit as we get to the next level. We continue to build this sauce. All right. So those are going. Next time I'm going to put in is the ginger. Just going to throw it in. We're also going to put the onions and the garlic in. Non-fussy. Then once those are going, we're going to stick the peppers in. But before we do the peppers, I want to get a fond going. Oh, sorry, a fond. I want to get a roux going. So as you can see, you're probably saying there's a lot of grease in that pan. That's perfect. That's what we want. Because I'm going to add some flour here, and we're going to start building a base to the sauce. Give it a minute to brown up a little bit more. Alright guys, so the aromatics have been sauteing for about a minute or two. I'm going to start to add in our spice mix. This is just my favorite brand, curry powder. Alright, if you can find it, go get it because it's pretty freaking good, in my opinion. Better than those cubes you can get out there, provided that you figure out how to make a roux. Definitely a better flavor than the roux cubes. You can get a lot of grocery stores. We're going to saute the curry powder for a bit to make it fragrant. Right, and I actually want to have a little bit more grease in the pan for when I build my roux. So I'm going to add a little bit more chicken oil, maybe about a tablespoon and a half. Then I'm going to add the roux, or the flour. And that's about maybe 3/4 of a cup of flour that I just put in there. I added the extra oil because the texture I want when I add the flour in, I don't want it to be overly grainy and dry. I want it to be somewhat wet. Oh shit. Making a mess. Just like that. Now I can add in my proteins back in. Push it. That then absorbs some of that flavor. Get that curry powder all up in the meat, all up in the goat. I'm throwing the chilies. tidy up. We're going to get the stock ready to throw it in. It's already smelling amazing, guys, like, honestly. Alright. So I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to throw in my chicken stock, my homemade chicken stock. And let that deglaze a little bit. I'm not going to put it all, because I really want to focus on deglazing the pan. I really want to focus on getting to the bottom of the pan and scraping it clean, making sure there's no gunk left on it, because that gunk will burn and it will make your sauce bitter. So when you're deglazing, you really want to spend a lot of time in scraping the bottom of the pan. All that flavor you've created in the fond with the searing of the protein and the browning of the vegetables, it's left residual sugars on the bottom of the pan, and if you don't get to them, they will burn, because sugar at high temperatures will burn. So you want to avoid that from happening by making sure you scrub the bottom of the pan. Alright, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm focusing on getting a clean pan. I can feel it if there's any crud left on the bottom. Now that I know that it's pretty clean, I'm going to add more stock, and this is where we're going to start to use liquid to cook down the meat. I'm going to start to braise. You don't need a whole lot of liquid to braise, okay, but you need enough to make sure that your mixture doesn't burn. Me, I like my curry saucy, so I'm putting the rest of that in there. That's probably about a liter or so, 16 ounces of liquid that I've placed inside. And we'll bring that up to temperature. Add a few more things in there for flavoring, and then we're going to stick it in the oven to cook. First of which are bay leaves. Bay leaves impart such a nice flavor. I really like them. We're also going to be putting in some ketchup, not too much, but most curries have a ketchup component, have a tomato component. Japanese curries love ketchup, and they actually impart quite a nice flavor with the acidity and the sweetness. So we're going to throw some ketchup in there. We're also going to throw in some of this, which is Japanese Worcestershire sauce. And a little bit of sweet soy sauce, which will impart some flavor, a tad bit of sweetness, a little hint of caramelized flavor. And here's my secret: dark cocoa powder. Not a lot. This will add a certain dimension, depth, and dimension of flavor and color without being overly aggressive. Last thing we're going to do is throw the scotch bonnet in there. Mix, mix, mix. Oh, geez, I almost forgot. My seasonings. Mushroom powder, good old mushroom powder. You know you guys. You know I love this stuff. And instead of putting shiitake mushrooms in here, I'm just going to use the mushroom powder, because that's what this stuff is, ground up shiitake mushrooms. And to round out the flavor, we'll just turn that down a bit, a little bit of white pepper. I didn't put any more sriracha powder because that was really just to give a background dimension of flavor into the meat as we marinated it. Whoa. All right. So now, I'm pretty happy with how that flavor goes. How that flavor is. So I'm going to now get ready to simmer this. This is going to go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably like 2.5 hours to be honest. We'll see, until it's tender and ready to go. So we'll check in on it with you a little bit later. All right, guys. So the aromatics have been sauteing for about a minute or two. I'm going to start to add in our spice mix. This is just my favorite brand curry powder. All right, if you can find it, go get it because it's pretty freaking good, in my opinion. Better than those cubes you can get out there, provided that you figure out how to make a roux. Definitely a better flavor than the roux cubes. You can get a lot of grocery stores. We're going to saute the curry powder for a bit to make it fragrant. All right, and I actually want to have a little bit more grease in the pan for when I build my roux. So I'm going to add a little bit more chicken oil, maybe about a tablespoon and a half. Then I'm going to add the roux, or the flour. And that's about maybe 3/4 cup of flour that I just put in there. I added the extra oil because the texture I want when I add the flour in, I don't want it to be overly grainy and dry. I want it to be somewhat wet. Oh shit. Making a mess. Just like that. And now I can add in my proteins back in. Push it. That then absorbs some of that flavor. Curry powder all up in the meat, all up in the goat. I'm throwing the chilies. Tidy up. We're going to get the stock ready to throw it in. It's already smelling amazing, guys, like, honestly. Alright. So I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm going to throw in my chicken stock, my homemade chicken stock. And let that deglaze a little bit. I'm not going to put it all, because I really want to focus on deglazing the pan. I really want to focus on getting to the bottom of the pan and scraping it clean. Making sure there's no gunk left on it, because that gunk will burn and it will make your sauce bitter. So when you're deglazing, you really want to spend a lot of time in scraping the bottom of the pan. All that flavor you've created in the fond with the searing of the protein and the browning of the vegetables, it's left residual sugars on the bottom of the pan, and if you don't get to them, they will burn, because sugar at high temperatures will burn. So you want to avoid that from happening by making sure you scrub the bottom of the pan. Alright, so that's what I'm doing here. I'm focusing on getting a clean pan. I can feel it if there's any crud left on the bottom. Now that I know that it's pretty clean, I'm going to add more stock. And this is where we're going to start to use liquid to cook down the meat. I'm going to start to braise. You don't need a whole lot of liquid to braise, okay, but you need enough to make sure that your mixture doesn't burn. Me, I like my curry saucy, so I'm putting the rest of that in there. That's probably about a liter or so. 16 ounces of liquid that I've placed inside. And we'll bring that up to temperature. Add a few more things in there for flavoring, and then we're going to stick it in the oven to cook. First of which are bay leaves. Bay leaves impart such a nice flavor. I really like them. We're also going to be putting in some ketchup, not too much, but most curries have a ketchup component, have a tomato component. Japanese curries love ketchup, and they actually impart quite a nice flavor with the acidity and the sweetness. So we're going to throw some ketchup in there. We're also going to throw in some of this, which is Japanese Worcester sauce. And a little bit of sweet soy sauce, which will impart some flavor, a tad bit of sweetness, a little hint of caramelized flavor. And here's my secret: dark cocoa powder. Not a lot. This will add a certain dimension, depth, and dimension of flavor and color without being overly aggressive. Last thing we're going to do is throw the scotch bonnet in there. Mix, mix, mix. Oh, jeez, I almost forgot. My seasonings. Mushroom powder, good old mushroom powder. You know you guys. You know I love this stuff. And instead of putting shiitake mushrooms in here, I'm just going to use the mushroom powder, because that's what this stuff is, ground up shiitake mushrooms. And to round out the flavor, we'll just turn that down a bit, a little bit of white pepper. I didn't put any more sriracha powder because that was really just to give a background dimension of flavor into the meat as we marinated it. Whoa. All right. So now I'm pretty happy with how that flavor goes. How that flavor is. So I'm going to now get ready to simmer this. This is going to go for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, probably like 2.5 hours to be honest. We'll see, until it's tender and ready to go. So we'll check in on it with you a little bit later. It's good to go now, guys. We're going to throw this into the oven, throw a lid on it, a little crack, and this is going to go in the oven. See ya. And here we have it, guys, the final product, our spicy Hellfire Japanese goat curry. Just pour some on, and here I have some pickled pickled cucumbers to go on the side. Here we go. Oopsie. Yeah. Where's my spoon? And here we go. Check it out. Check it out. Oh, God, I can't wait. Holy man. It's spicy, but not too spicy. The spice lingers. Deep flavor because of the cocoa powder. Cucumbers on point. You gotta try this. Try it. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. You know what to do. I'm gonna hit this. Till the next time. Thanks for joining. Peace.